What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. So today I want to show you guys how to unlock the critical cover specialization. I was recently able to unlock it, and this is the first of the two new tanker class specializations that have come out with the Turning Tides DLC. When you unlock this, you'll be able to deploy smoke automatically to your tank whenever your tank is disabled. So if you get in those situations where your tracks get disabled and you're kind of out there in the open and you're looking for cover, well, this is a good perk that you'll have, and it's a good perk in general because all your other perks really didn't benefit you when you're in your tank. So again, these are the first of the two new specializations that have come to the tanker class. DICE's intent behind this is, they said in their patch notes, to slightly increase the tank survivability by giving visual cover when they are disabled. So again, it's another helpful little perk, and it's one of the new perks that are coming to the tanker class. Now, in order to unlock the critical cover specialization, we had to do the tanks for the memories challenges. So I'm going to go through the list of which ones that I chose to do, because you can choose 5 out of the 6, and you can leave one of them that might be too difficult, and you can throw that one aside. So I'll go through the ones that I chose and see maybe that help you guys out. Now, the first 3 do very much complement each other while you're playing as a tanker class, so you'll find yourself quickly, easily picking up each one of those as you're playing as a tanker class. But I'll go through each of them one by one. So the first one is perform 50 self-repairs in tanks. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. As long as you're, using your tanker class and you're taking damage, you're going to repair yourself. And it's probably one of the first ones I think I got. It's pretty easy to get. And again, all you have to do is self-repair your tank. It does say in tank, so I would assume you have to stay inside your tank. I wasn't really checking to see if I could repair it outside of my tank, but then again, you don't really need to be jumping outside your tank unless for really extreme circumstances. So really, this should be a pretty easy one to get. Now, moving on to the second one, as a tanker, perform 5,000 vehicle damage. Now, that was a little bit of time consuming, but it's, again, pretty easy to get. All you do is put damage on enemy tanks. Now, when it came to the tanker class that I chose, or which tanks I chose specifically, I was playing on more mixed servers, so I had more of a variety to choose from, and I went to my heavy tank just because I could take more damage from enemy players, and I wasn't, having to die as quickly. I could just kind of, not have to be so concerned of being, on maybe an artillery truck or a light tank, where I could, easily be taken out by infantry players. But I was more, just the big brute, force of a vehicle presence on the map. So that was kind of my approach on doing it. I'm not saying it's a better way to do it or not, but that was just kind of my approach, and it allowed me just to kind of, deal out more damage and be around what it felt for me a little bit, longer than, me having to kind of play more of a, infantry, type of tanker class like a light tank. So I really have to maneuver around the map really hardcore like an artillery truck gameplay. So moving on to the third point, I went into disable 25 tracks. That was pretty easy. Again, when you're, shooting against tanks, you're going to disable tracks a lot. So that's again another thing that you're going to pick up along with these self-repairs and damaging, putting 5,000 vehicle damage on enemy players. So yeah, you're going to pick up these disabled 25 trucks pretty easily. If for some reason you're not able to get into a tank and you want to disable the tracks, you can always, then of course, go to the assault class and throw some anti-tank mines on the ground, and that will automatically give you a track disable. So you're very easily able to do that as well. For some reason you're not able to jump into a tank, but that's an option if you want to do it there. But again, I was picking these up just as easy as I was picking up the 5,000 vehicle damage. So just as you're playing with the tanker class, you're easily going to accumulate this specific challenge. Now, moving on to probably the easiest one out of all of those, there is get 50 passenger assists. So this might be one you might want to hold on to, maybe the last one you do when you get kind of frustrated with maybe the last 2 that are the more challenging ones. But you will easily just pick this up pretty much unknowingly if you jump into a tank itself and you're in the passenger, your tanker that's driving his tank is putting damage on enemy players, taking players out. You're going to easily rack up passenger assists by doing that. So you really don't have to do anything at all. You can even jump into behemoths, which is something I found myself doing, and you'll instantly, easily rack up your passenger assists. You could probably maybe even do that maybe in 1 round if you get yourself on a pretty good streak there with your behemoths. So that's one, again, it's very easy to do. You can just basically put your controller down, walk away, go get something to eat, come back, and you find yourself getting a good rack of passenger assists done if you have a pretty good solid tanker that's running this tank. So again, that's a pretty easy one, and it's something that that will go up pretty quick for you. Now finally, the last two I'm going to talk about, just because I kind of bounced back and forth as my progression was going for both of them kind of equally at the exact same time. I was under the impression that I was going to get the destroy 10 tanks using the field gun before I was going to get the perform 50 kills as a tank passenger, just because I'm more accustomed to using the field guns and I could do, you know, more damage. It felt like using that gun. But as I was progressing, I was seeing the 50 kills for tank passengers moving up quicker for the most part. It was a bit of a grind, to say the least, for both of those. So, but I was still moving up a bit, you know, faster than I was getting the, you know, kills with the field gun. So I was beginning to lean more and more using the 50 kills as a tank passenger. However, it was still taking plenty of games to be able to do this, and I was jumping from Conquest over to Operations more, just because I could control some of the maps more that I was going to choose from, that were hopefully going to give me some, you know, better tank gameplay, as this seemed like the Conquest maps choices from the mixed servers were just over and over and over again only maps that had to do with no vehicle gameplay. So I went to Operations servers, and that was helping me out a little bit more to control a little bit more of maps that were going to be tanker friendly. However, it was still progressing way too slow for my taste, so I eventually went back to some Conquest servers trying to figure out a better way of doing this, and I was at, I think, about like 30 kills with the tank passenger, and I was finally like, you know what, let me jump into a tank myself and use the tank of my choice, because that was one problem I was having, which was, you know, get into a tanker that, you know, was going to use some good cannons for the passenger side. And so I jumped into a heavy tank, and I chose a heavy breakthrough tank, which is my, you know, heavy tank of choice. And I figured I would just position myself at the edge of certain capture points and wait for the enemy team to try to, you know, want to cap that area, and then I would just blast them with the passenger cannon. So I would switch out, jump to the passenger cannon, and I played on Giant Shadow, and I got like 18 passenger kills just on that map. So all these other games I was playing, well, I was getting 1, 2 passenger kills. I finally got it where I had 18 in that one game. So I jumped on to the next game where I played on Soysons, and I was able to get a good amount of kills after that one. I kept pushing even after that game, and I was able to accumulate, get my 50 kills finally. I only had 2 more left after that point, but I still played it a little bit more to see how efficient it was, and it was still pretty efficient. So that might be a pretty good option for you. You then, of course, have to deal with your teammates jumping into your tank themselves and driving your tank off while you're in the passenger side. However, though, at least you have a bit more control over the tank that you're going to be jumping in, because regardless, you know, if you weren't going to do this in the first place, you're going to have to jump into a teammate's tank, and he might be using certain tank that doesn't really do well with the type of cannons that are in it. And so, you know, you're better off this way. You know, of course, you're going to have the crazy teammates and drive into a completely chaotic spot, which I had happen to me before at other maps where I was using different type of tanks. But, you know, it's not going to happen all the time, and you can still at least jump out of your tank and heal your teammate using your repair tool. So that does help by doing that. And of course, if you can't grab a tank at the time, there's no tanks available, I would suggest jumping with a support class, getting your repair tool, and using that to jump out and try to keep your tanker alive. You also can grab some smoke and throw that out and kind of use that as a, you know, critical cover, you know, type of way of helping your tanker out by giving them some cover with throwing down smoke, and then you can repair it and jump back in. But if you want a little bit more control over it, and you might not maybe have a good tanker you can jump in, maybe you don't have a teammate that you can kind of work with really well, and you're kind of going out at a kind of a solo perspective, you can jump into your own heavy tank, use a breakthrough tank, and then jump into the passenger side and blast enemy players using that. Now, of course, if you still would prefer maybe going to using the field gun tactic, that is an option you can choose. I would seem to have a little bit more luck, even though I think I only got like 3 out of the 10 of the field guns. I was feeling like I was getting more situations that were coming up as I was playing Operations mode than Conquest. However, though, the nice thing about Conquest is you're able to maybe try grabbing elite classes that can you can use when you're operating the field gun. So if you got enemy players that are shooting at you, or you have the enemy tanks that are blasting the field gun, you can survive a little bit longer. So that's an option maybe to help you guys out a little bit more when it comes to using the field gun. But if that's not an option and you're stuck without using any elite classes, you can, of course, or I would suggest at least grabbing the support class, as it has the repair tool where you can repair the actual field gun that might get broken down from enemy players blasting it with their tank or AT rocket guns or whatever. And then of course equipping smoke, wow, with an ammo pouch where you can keep throwing smoke around your area to kind of give you a little bit of cover, for the most part being in that. And then you can of course resupply yourself using your ammo pouch to keep throwing more smoke down. Hopefully that helps you guys out, because that was pretty interesting. I did try to jump into the char tank behemoth and see if maybe that would give me passenger kills. I didn't get a chance to kill anyone in it though when it jumped up for the one time I had it, which was really unfortunate. I was like in the worst spot ever, and it couldn't do any damage on anyone. But if that's an option and someone knows about that, comment that down below. Maybe that'll help players out to get this, the passenger kills, much quicker, because that would be a pretty solid option. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't fall under the behemoth kills, and you can only maybe get passenger assist for only being into that tank slash behemoth. But I don't know exactly, so feel free to comment down below if that's a possibility, guys. But again, hopefully that helps you guys out, gives you a little bit of insight to get this specialization sooner, and you can learn a little bit from my mistakes there. But that's it for you guys today though. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I am Living, and I'll catch you guys again later. Peace.